Welcome everyone to our cross-border conversation on making a success of the move to a new country. Thank you to Genlec for supporting this series of talks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bhavika, and I head up development at a production company in Vancouver. I'm from Bombay, India, and I moved to Canada 8 years ago. I'm currently executive producing a comedy series here in Canada, and I will hand it over to Zoe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zoe Sharples. I'm a British producer living in Cyprus. My pronouns are she, her, and my visual description, I'm a white woman with brown curly hair wearing a green top. It's nice to see everyone, a great pleasure to be here. I'll pass to Olga.
Hi guys, I'm Olga Kozhema. I'm NAD, originally from Ukraine. Now I'm a refugee filmmaker kind of moving between Europe and the UK. My pronouns are she, her, and I'll pass it on to Veronika.
Hi, here. I'm Veronika. I'm from Ukraine, and currently I'm living in the UK. I'm working in post-production. I'm a Foley recordist and mixer, and my pronouns and she, her.
Hey, I'm Adriana. I'm originally from Romania, and I moved to the UK like 14 years ago. I work as an assistant editor, and my pronoun is she, and I'm just a short dark hair.
I moved to Cyprus about 9 months ago, and I've before that I was living in London, and I've mainly worked in kind of rights, business affairs, and in books, film, and TV. And then I moved to Cyprus. My partner got a job here, so I came with him. And my last company very kindly kept me on for 2 months remotely. And then I had to find something new. So yes, I've been working as a producer, doing a few different things, and I have my own company here. So I've made the move from being an employee to being freelance. How about you, Bhavika?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit different for me because I started working when I was 16. While I was studying, I was always just really excited about the industry. I had two older sisters, so I asked them to call every friend they knew in the industry and ask them to get me an internship. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in the industry. I just knew I was fascinated by film and TV. So I worked as an assistant editor, assistant stylist, assistant director. I did every odd job you can imagine that's available. That led me to being a talent agent. So I ended up being a talent agent managing some of the biggest Indian film industry actors. Realized very quickly that everything I learned through all these internships, working in every single department, I wanted to be a producer and I wanted to get into TV because TV wasn't that big back in India. Back then, there was more soap operas. Netflix, Amazon hadn't come to India yet. So I moved to Canada. My sister was moving here and she said, "Oh, there's a really big industry in Canada." And I was like, "Is there?" And she's like, "Yeah, there's a massive industry. It's called Hollywood North." So I got my permanent residency and then moved to Canada, which was interesting because I knew no one here. So figuring out how to navigate my way. But that was the start of the journey. How about you, Adriana?
Well, I moved to England with the intention of working as a video editor on music videos. And I got my first project like shortly after I moved to England, even though I had very little experience as a video editor. I did have some experience. I used to work in television back in Romania. And so I've edited a music video for a production company, for a record label based in Brighton, and that let me get more work for music festivals. And then I've met Swedish writer a couple of years ago, well, quite a long time ago, who was working on a really quirky project, like social experiments, and I just started filming her. And like my intention was to make a 4 or 5 minutes long kind of promotional video, which turned into a documentary. And that kind of led me to the film industry. I did a film production course, and that opened up like the gate towards the film industry and like getting more professional experience, professional work. At the moment, I I edit like short form and like short films, and I work as an assistant editor on bigger productions.
I started being a DJ and I became an electronic musician.
Wow.
I was working in marketing in my country as a freelancer, but obviously because of all this, I'm from Ukraine, so since 2014, the economy was going down and down and down. So I started teaching music production in India, and then when in 2022, when like everything happened, sad stuff, I decided to settle somewhere properly, and my boyfriend is from London, so we moved to London, and I decided, you know what, I will probably, I should move to the industry I really love instead of like not speaking a proper English and trying to do marketing career in the office. And I'm like, what should I do? And I decided to go to post-production. And with my knowledge of all the software, but zero knowledge in post-production, I managed to find a job, and now I'm working as a Foley recordist.
When did you
Yeah.
move to England?
In 2022, 2 years ago, actually, this month, like almost exactly 2 years ago, actually.
Was
I
it
don't-
similar for you, Olga?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a little bit extreme. I had like a different starting point though. Like my whole family works in film, so it was like a very natural path for me as well. And when the war broke out, I feel like I have maybe a better starting position than a lot of other people, because I used to work with commercials and service productions as well as film. So we did a lot of co-productions, and I had like a lot of connections in Europe as well as in the UK. So when it came time to pack my things and go, my friends who I worked with in Kiev right before the war started invited me to Berlin, and this was the starting ground. And when there came a work opportunity in the UK, I jumped in the UK immediately, because I mean I do speak better English than I speak German, so it is a lot
Yeah.
easier just
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. Yeah. But yeah, basically what I did back home actually helped me quite a lot, and I feel like that was a huge advantage for
Yeah.
the journey.
Did you feel though, because for me, everything I've done so far, like I said, because I did all those odd jobs, and as a producer, you have to manage everything. It definitely has helped me, reach this position I'm in right now with all the skills I've learned. However, because they're two such different countries, India and Canada, or even the US, like US and Canada work so closely, I feel like I had to relearn a lot of the ways I was working, because the working styles were so different, the way, films or even TV shows are made, the way communication's done, that was really different. What about you guys?
Again, I was a little bit lucky because right before my move, we had a lot of foreigners coming in.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the process was that we had to find a common ground. Because when you do a co-production, it means you cannot function fully in your system, and you cannot fully function in their system. There must be a way to collaborate and work together, which was like super helpful. Apparently, every time somebody tells you that this is the only way we do things, that's a lie. There's always ways to adjust. Yeah, but definitely like jumping between now Poland, Germany, and the UK, the biggest difference, other than the like general work ethic and the work laws that you have to deal with, is actually that like the lingo that people use.
I find the experience of moving to a different country quite similar to breaking into the film industry, because you kind of move into an unfamiliar territory. You have to learn a new language. As you said, the communication style is very different in the film industry. When you move to a new country, you kind of like have to move around and find the people you share interests with. And like, I think it's the same with the film industry. You have to move around and find the people you click with on the creative level. Yeah, I don't have I didn't have any experience in the film industry in Romania, so I kind of had to start from zero.
Yeah.
Here.
It was the same for me. I knew no one in the film industry in North America. And the way I started was I messaged 20 producers on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh, I just want to ask some questions. And I remember 18 of them didn't respond. One of them responded. It was January. One of them responded saying he's on vacation until September and I should reach out in September. And there was one producer who said, I have questions for your questions. Come and meet me. So I went to meet him and instantly he realized how passionate I was. And he said, I don't have money to give you, but you should, if you're open to an internship, you should do it. I learned things really quickly. In 3 months, he offered me a job and that's how I broke into the industry. But it was definitely a learning curve and realizing you just have to reach out to as many people as you can because you just never know who will say yes. So it was interesting. And then that led me from film. He was a film producer and then COVID hit and I realized TV is what I want to do. But once you break in and you start building a network, I felt like it was easier for me to then, know who's out there and who's actually, which are the companies that are making the kind of content I wanted to be making.
I think that the most difficult kind of thing, the most challenging thing for me when I moved to England was that I didn't know how the film industry works, how to approach the film industry. I didn't have any contacts. And yeah, just like studying film production open up all these opportunities.
Do you mind me asking, where did you study, Adriana?
In Brighton, at Brighton University, well, it's Screen and Film School in Brighton. Yeah.
How did you find that experience?
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I wish I could just be a student for the rest of my life. Yeah. Since I finished university, I've worked with a few lecturers from my course who are established film directors. So that helped me massively, I would say. Yeah.
And it must have helped you sort of make some contacts and maybe you're still in touch with them that, you've worked.
Yeah, it's also like all the work that I've got so far was basically being referred from one project to another and like just building up a network. I think that takes time. The first couple of years are the hardest. But yeah, I think like if you've got a passion, as you said, like the producer who interviewed you recognize the passion you have for film, and this is what everyone's looking for. Like
picking up on the building a network, I was thinking, so I've been here for 9 months and it did take some time. It didn't happen straight away, probably 3 to 6 months before I kind of properly found, well, I'm still finding my feet. But I mean, before I arrived, I had maybe 2 months before I moved where I knew I was moving. So I did some research on the industry here and started reaching out to a few people. And I was really lucky to volunteer at a film festival in Cyprus about a couple of weeks after I started. And that was a really lovely experience. There were a lot of international filmmakers who came here and through that I met a lot of Cypriots as well. So I actually did better than my partner at meeting Cypriots in the first few weeks.
That's great.
And then I also kind of sent emails to people and approached people, and some of those came back a few months later even, and so they say here, slowly, siga, and it's definitely a process, I think.
Yeah, I know all the 18 producers who didn't respond to me. I'm working with half of them now in this new capacity. So it's really funny because I reached out to them years ago when I knew no one in the industry. So it's come full circle and it feels really rewarding because I had to start from scratch again and build my self up and break into the industry. So it's been a fun learning. It has been a bit stressful, like you said, Zoe, but it's also been really rewarding because you look back from day one when I landed in Canada and I was like, I have no idea where to start.
Yeah, but definitely even if you have like that group of contacts that I had, which was funny. About like 10% of people who I wrote to actually responded with anything. And funny enough, my experience was that the producers from the UK were the least likely to respond, even though I've been messaging people who I've done like 5 commercials with or something like that. So we weren't complete strangers. But it is definitely a process. And just like you said, it just comes full circle. I was invited by one of the participants of Focus London to the event, and I was there, and I met a few of the producers I was trying to reach via email, and we actually kept in touch, and it is truly a process. And like the funny thing that I found out that the building where I was renting an apartment in London, apparently it was buzzing with young people also eager to break into the industry. So we actually had some local networking, and we had like a few master classes on like acting and editing, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like you never know where those connections are going to pop up.
Yeah. How do you guys feel in terms of just networking? How, like, what is the process to get started? Because for me, LinkedIn was my best resource. And I'm like, you know, it's fine if they never respond. I'm going to still take the chance. And I got lucky with one of them. But how do you guys feel like to break into even the industry through networking? How do you guys get started?
Okay, I would say first, try everything you can, like everything. I would say it's even from my marketing experience, even if something gives you very little and something gives you a lot, like different sources, do everything because you don't know where you're gonna get lucky. But in post-production sound, it's actually a word of mouth. LinkedIn didn't work that well at all. And it's actually through screens skills, through different meetings. And what helped me to find a job, it was a bit crazy. I went, and I actually advise if anyone wants to do it. It's crazy. It's crazy, but it works. So you go to Google Maps, you find all post-production studios on Google Maps. You write down phone numbers and addresses. You go to their websites. You find who is a boss, and you write a letter with your CV, and you just go to every place and give your envelope with your CV and the letter. And I done about 30, and one of them responded, and I'm still working here. And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I was really embarrassed, but I met a lot of absolutely lovely people. They all tried to help me. Even if they didn't want anyone, they would like, come there, come here. We know the person, leave your email. They were emailing me. And finally, I just bumped into people who are like, oh my God, we need a new person. Please come. You're working tomorrow, just like this. And I'm still here. So it works, but it's embarrassing. It's difficult, but if there is nothing else, it can help.
I think it was very brave, not embarrassing.
Well,
That is very
it was
brave.
terrible.
And a very
No.
original thing to do.
It really works. I used the same
Yeah.
like similar tactic in Berlin, and it was fantastic. Like I would pass by and there would be like somebody shooting, and I would be like, okay, breathe in, breathe out, forget that you're an introvert, come there and be like, hey guys, oh my God, this is so interesting. I'm also a filmmaker. I just came here. And funny enough, I found a few connections, like a few ADs, then introduced me to other ADs, and that's how I started like getting jobs, which works again for music videos and commercials mostly. But it's kind of like utilizing the fact that people like to communicate, and especially people in the creative industries, and you just like come to them, you smile to them, and immediately they associate you with like an alive person, and that just works great. Super awkward, but it works great.
I know. I think that's why they say you should talk to anyone and everyone, because you just never know who can give you a helping hand. And I think especially for anyone moving to a new country where you don't know anyone, it's so important to just put yourself out there. And even me, like when I remember I got the job, I was already a successful agent and I was restarting. And when that producer who offered me that internship said, I don't have a single dollar to give you, and I needed to make money. And I was like, what are my odds here if I'm breaking in the industry? I need to prove to whoever I'm working for, I am capable of this job. So I think I always tell people you should just take the job with or without money, and then if you're really passionate about it, find out the means to support that dream, because some way or the other, that's going to work out in your benefit.
That's right. Yeah, I've edited a lot of short films for free, and through that work, I actually found bigger productions to work on. That led me into the film industry to work on feature films, basically. It's just like, because you have to build up your skills. You build up a network as well. Like when you work on small productions or independent productions, like there's no money. Obviously, when they're gonna get some money for a bigger project, they would choose to work with the people who already helped them. So, and networking is key in this industry. Like all the work I've got so far, it was through word of mouth. I never got any job on LinkedIn, like never.
It's actually in the UK. In the UK, the thing is they don't have time to put anything on LinkedIn. Everything is so busy. They're just like, just someone is asking, please, 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 and then and when you have someone has someone who knows someone who is looking for a job, this person will get a job. So only like this, because there is no time. Nobody. If you look for a different post-production companies, many of them just abandon their social media because they just don't have time to do it. They're just working. So yes, networking is like here in the UK is the key.
Again, it's maybe unconventional, and it's not very easy if you're just like starting out and do not have a background. But another thing that worked for me, I went to the unions for help. And it was, first of all, it was very funny and not funny at the same time, how I had to prove to them, especially like the unions in the UK, that European experience counts. And I still have like 6 years of being an AD behind my back, even if I didn't work in the UK specifically. But again, it just comes down to like basic communication. You have to find out the person who would be willing to talk to you and will be willing to listen as well. I felt like the AD guilds in the UK started hating me because I was that pushy and that adamant to just prove myself, at least on paper. But they usually have those like little channels where they share certain like jobs even between themselves. Like that thing also works great in Germany, because there's like formal union and an informal union, and they would be like bouncing certain things between themselves, because like, hey, I was offered this gig, but I can't really take it. Can somebody like take it over? And it actually makes a lot of sense for themselves, because that way they don't lose the next job off that comes. If they like, I think you guys can agree that if a producer like writes to a person and the person is like, I'm sorry, I don't have any time, but I know somebody who can take it over and do as good of a job as I would, that works a lot better than, sorry, I can't, I'm really busy. Not the same vibe.
Yeah. I think something that I learned as well when I was applying for jobs when I moved here, even though I had all this experience, from what I was saying before, that the experience level didn't count as much as it did back in India, here in Canada. I think I had to be okay with the fact that I had to take a few steps down and almost restart my career. Knowing now what I know through these experiences, even though I started as an assistant, even though I had more knowledge, I grew really quickly. I got a promotion in like 4 months because I knew all of that. They just didn't trust me when they hired me. But once they saw me put in the work, they were like, she knows this. And I think what I always tell people, it's okay if you're not getting a manager position in the new country you've moved to, apply as an assistant. And then put in the work and show them you can do the work of a manager, and then you'll get promoted really quickly instead of putting in 2 to 3 years of work. So I think there was definitely a difficult thing to deal with 8 years ago when I was applying for jobs, but it paid off.
Talent Manager, like really good website for approaching production houses, and like pretty much, because I did a similar thing as Veronika. I didn't write the letters, I wrote emails. Approached producers directly, and I managed to get some work experience.
Yeah, no, I just when I moved, I was quite prepared to move. Realistically, I was thinking I'd have to move industry, change jobs. So I'm very happy that I've kind of managed to stay in film and TV. I applied for a lot of jobs as well in other things, and it became apparent quite quickly that although a lot of people here speak English, often job descriptions would require Greek. I'm in the Republic of Cyprus, and Greek is not an easy language to learn quickly. So that was a bit of a barrier. And I noticed we have a question about trying to get remote work, which is something and how to make that successful. And that's something I looked at as well, looking at whether, I could still work remotely for companies in the UK or in Europe. Luckily, I'm also an Irish citizen, so I'm able to work within Europe without too much extra difficulty and administration on top. But I actually, I don't know if you had a look at working remotely. I found that quite difficult to. There seems to be a lot out there, for example, on LinkedIn, just on the internet. There are different, maybe recruitment agencies that do remote work, but actually when it got into it, it was quite difficult to get a hold of that.
I think it depends on what you do. Like as a producer, I imagine it would be quite hard to find remote work, but as a video editor, it's not that hard. Yeah.
I had a different experience because the job I'm currently at, when I started the job, it was 2020, it was peak COVID. So I had to learn everything remotely. It was definitely an interesting experience not having people in office. But I think it was also circumstantial, like they needed someone, they had to hire someone remotely, offices were closed, you couldn't even leave your house. But I do think that, I think within your country, you can work remotely. Again, I think to what Adriana's been saying, that it really depends on the job. Because if you need to be like on a production set, you can't work remotely. I think they managed to do that during COVID with directors, which I think, Olga, you'd be able to speak to how they did that, which I thought was a little difficult because some companies are open to it, but now that a lot of companies are going back to in person, it's definitely been challenging to even find those jobs.
There is a way that I kind of faced because I did a documentary project this winter, and that was very new experience for me on many levels. But a few things that they did when it came to editing and researching, they outsourced those things, and in order for them to find a person, they posted it on their website. And other than the website, they used this database that's called Crew United, which works fantastically in Europe and especially in Germany, like to the point where they don't ask you for your CV, they ask you for the profile link to that database. Sometimes they make any like announcements there, but usually I just logged in. I looked at the production that works for me, and I was just like fishing for job opportunities on their website. If you aim at something realistic, aka smaller companies, there's absolutely a chance that you will get noticed.
Yeah, I feel remote jobs are easier to get with smaller companies as well. And they have more postings for those jobs as well because they don't have the office spaces companies like Netflix or Disney have.
Sometimes they kind of produce certain parts of a movie or a series in a certain country, and like legally and for financial reasons, they have to find a person from that country, which is also something that you can use to your advantage. Sometimes it's just for the company's cloud that they work super internationally, and say like, again, one of the previous projects that I did, we had a team of people from like 8 or 9 different countries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you need to get your foot in the door, use whatever. Everything's game. So, and I know it's awkward, it doesn't feel right sometimes, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to put the message out there, and you like most of the time I found work from places that are not from the places where I've applied for work. It just came from a totally different source, an unexpected source. But you have to try. You have to put yourself out there. Otherwise, people are not going to come to knock at your door and ask you for work, ask you if you're available to work. Yeah. Screencraftworks was one of the, for me, like a really good platform to network with people and meet interesting people, find out about their experiences, and kind of like guided me how to approach the film production.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be on the mentoring program as well, and it's been super helpful and a great way to meet people. And I am speaking to a lot more people internationally. I work a lot on Zoom and Google Meet, and my work day is sort of skewed a bit to later in the evening now because of where I am in the world, but generally I seem to be able to make it work, speaking to people in the US, Canada, India.
I do the same. We work remotely now, so most of my work is on Zoom. And I moved to Toronto last year, so I'm still working for a Vancouver company, so my hours are much later. I get to start late, which is great. I don't start before noon. So I get my mornings. But something that I did notice from what you were saying, Olga, was co-productions, because we do a lot of co-productions at my company. Like we're working on a show with Spain or France. And I've always wanted to move to Europe. So one of the ways that I've been thinking about moving to Europe as well is while working on the show, you create those relationships with these big companies or any company that you're working with on this project, and then try to go into a job with them instead of starting from scratch again. Because I found that beneficial, because I've made so many relationships now in Europe just because we're working so much in Europe. So I almost feel like the question that was asked us, try to find a project that like someone from your country and the other country is working on, and try to get into that, even if it's a lower position, just to break in, and then you slowly move your way up.
Absolutely. I started with co-productions as a translator.
Yeah.
On set. That was the thing. Yeah, absolutely. It's when it comes to stuff like that, it's always the simplest things that are missing, like somebody who can help you with day-to-day stuff, somebody who's just like a fixer, or can work as a fixer, or can work as a guide sometimes, or as a translator, because like when you bring like big international crowds, there's always a lot of elements missing.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, I would say actually in the industry is actually, well, like I found in London at least, people are very nice and they are really helpful. I was like, wow, why are they so nice to me? Why are they trying to help me? And even when they hire receptionist, for example, I even saw like email saying we are looking for receptionist, but we want it to be person who are interested in post-production sound. So we are planning to put them higher up later. Translator, receptionist, runner, whoever, it's a first step, and companies know it and they invite people like this. So very often they wouldn't get just receptionist for reception. So it's very, very good. Just step in, just do wherever you can, definitely.
Yeah, you are right about like people being really friendly, especially in post-production. I had met some lovely people, and they're always like willing to help and advise you, and just put your foot into the door, and you're gonna find the right people to help you.
I also think that finding a mentor has helped a lot. And it was tricky for sure when I first started looking for a mentor, but I feel like platforms like Screencraftworks and other platforms where you can find a mentor who can guide you, because I think networking also plays into confidence levels. And when you're in a new country, you just don't know how to approach people. And something that I'm working on with my mentee is the confidence level, which is going in and approaching people. How do you do it? Because it comes from embarrassment, nervousness. You don't know what to say, how they're going to take it. And I really think it's really important to see if you can find a mentor if you're really struggling to get a job, because then they can help you, even connect you to the right people, or almost, give you advice on how to get started and take those first steps. I don't know if any of you had any experience finding a mentor.
100%. Like I had a mentor through screencraft work, and he just helped me kind of like overcome the obstacle that I was facing at that particular time, and like with the advice I got from him in terms of confidence as well,
Yeah.
and what to learn at the stage that I was with my career at that particular moment, like really helped me. It's
Yeah.
it is definitely a great experience having a mentor. They started from scratch basically, so they've been through all these stages. They know how to overcome these obstacles. So
I'm working with the mentor also from Screencraft right now, but for me, it's not particularly the question of getting into the door as much as navigating the new landscape on a daily basis. And we actually keep in touch, and a lot of things that we discuss are around like work culture. Maybe, like I said, we even discuss language sometimes because there's like a huge language difference depending on which country you go to. Like good and bad, we talk about the sexism and ageism at work as well, which is also like you can imagine that it's a very glamorous industry, and like the bigger country you get to, the better it gets. And Veronika, I'm super happy for you that you had a fantastic experience with like nice people. My first project in the UK wasn't exactly a garden of roses, to put it nicely. So yeah, and I definitely wasn't mentally prepared for it, because yeah, I kind of had this like big dream of working in the UK, and everything would be like big, nice, and great because we have like such an amazing projects coming from the country. Yeah, no, not the reality. No.
Yeah. How did you navigate the pay, changes in your pay? Because for me, it was like once I got the job and I was getting promoted, I didn't even know what to ask for because the country was new to me and I didn't know who to reach out to, who to ask, what should I be asking for? How did you navigate that?
First of all, my first few projects, I just went with the number the producer gave me, and I was just like,
Yeah,
sure, yeah,
I'll
sure.
take it.
Yeah, I'll take
Yeah.
it. And then I just started Googling because I kind of quickly figured out that that's definitely, there's a chance they might use the fact that I'm not familiar with the financial landscape to their advantage. Like I said, unions have like a table with how much you should be earning. In the UK, the AD Guild, they have fantastic like Google table that calculates your salary for you, which you should be earning. Great, fantastic. I don't even think about it. But other than that, it's just it was a simple question to for the first, I think, year and a half. That was my go-to way of just asking my peers and people that
Yeah.
I know. And I just had one AD girl who was constantly like, hey Sandra, so I'm being offered this and they offer me this much. Are they bullshitting me or not? That was it. That was my
Yeah.
method.
I did the same thing. I think eventually I just started becoming friendlier with other executives who had similar jobs as me, and started like slowly and quietly, awkwardly asking, is this a good amount? Hypothetically speaking, is this a good amount? And then once you get into those conversations with your peers, I think it starts becoming more transparent and open as to, what other people are facing at their jobs as well. And that helped a great deal. And I think something that I always tell people is find other people who are in the same boat as you, because they can support you in ways you just didn't even know you needed. Because that's helped me a ton, just being in a completely new country, just making friends who are doing the same job as me, even if the experiences are different.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, just learn about taxes.
Yeah.
I cannot just tell you the amount of surprise that I had when I was offered like first big commercial in Germany, and the salary was like, wow. And I was just like, okay, maybe Germany knows something and I will finally earn a lot. And then my salary came after taxes, and they literally took 42% or 45% of my
42,
salary was
wow.
taxes and payments. And I was just like,
Yeah.
this is what I have to deal
Wow.
with now. Yeah,
Yeah, it was an experience.
again, it was
Wow.
just, well, I just came after the war and everything was for me adrenaline based. But if you have like a slower pace of like easing into the country, learn about the nitty-gritty and the boring stuff that you would definitely avoid in school, because those may be the deal breakers for you if it's a planned move.
Yeah.
How long on average did it take you to start feeling financially okay after you moved? If anyone wants to pick up on that.
Took me a few years for sure. I think like it goes back to what we were discussing earlier. I just didn't know what to ask for. So I took the bare minimum. And it took me a while to really get an understanding of what I deserve, putting in the work. And it goes hand in hand. They kind of see what you bring to the table. So then you can be in a position to ask for more as well. But just moving to a new country as well, like I did 2 jobs at the same time to support myself, because I knew that this is what I'm passionate about and I want to do for the rest of my life. But in order to support this, I had to work extra hours. But once you get in and you get the hang of things, it becomes easier because you can start asking for more as well.
I would say, like, if you don't know how much to charge, ask them what their budget is. Like, if you're just starting, if you are starting off, it's probably better to take what you are being offered rather than charging a lot of money if you don't have the right experience.
I haven't done a year yet. I think after a year, I'll have a better idea. Also, coming back to taxes, all this, the administration side as well. I'm figuring things out still.
In my kind of area, it's a bit weird, to be honest, and it depends how you want to start. So if you are a freelancer, freelancers actually get more money. But again, you really depend on projects, and you have to ask, what is your budget, and really work from there, because there are like some amazing short films, and these people just don't have any money. But when you're working for a company, and there are many post-production companies in London, obviously, there is a bit of cheeky thing that first 2 years, you should be happy if you get any salary even. It's really bad, to be honest. I was kind of lucky. I got a full job straight away. I didn't become a runner, but obviously like self-respecting studios would pay their runners minimum wage, to be honest. But I was also offered, would you like to have 6 months internship, like for free, like, for free? And I'm like, no. So I even refused a couple of things like this, and I would advise to refuse it, because it's like, it's not nice. You have to earn some money for your work.
And if you can
So
afford, you can do it.
yes,
But
exactly. Exactly. That's the thing. I'm like, rooms in London are starting from like £700, one little tiny room. Like, how can you work for free? So so here I would say the breaking point is 2 years. And then you can say, okay, I am that good. I'm not earning less than this much. And this is my word, like, but you have to really prove that they want you, they need you.
I think I can agree with Veronika, because a lot of it really comes to self-confidence. Like you really have to believe in yourself enough to think that, okay, I can go above the bare minimum. And it also comes to not listening to all of those toxic voices, which I had quite a few in my experience, that will tell you, you're not from here, you do not deserve this, or you're less than because you come from somewhere else. And again, it comes back to knowing the nitty-gritty, because I've met a few producers told me that we're not going to pay you as a local. And apparently this is also something that you agree between yourselves, that you go about like under a certain minimum. Again, people were trying to use the fact that I might have not known those things against me. which
Yeah.
again, really people, they happen. Just figure out how to basically protect yourself in a very, very basic way.
Thank you all so much for sharing your experience and for sharing your knowledge and your ideas. It's been wonderful to hear.